Hello, everybody. Welcome to September edition of Office Hours for Dynatrace App Development. My name is Harris. I'm developer advocate here at Dynatrace for about a year. And today we're going to take a look into some app development topics. I hope you all had a great summer vacation and that you're ready to get back into it. So I'm going to be alone today hosting it. And now we're going to run through a couple of things that we're going to expect, that you can expect in this session. These are going to be the latest news about app development, some interesting highlights from developer Q&A. Maybe my presentation is a little bit, there we go. That's working now. So as I said, the latest news about the app development and some interesting highlights from developer Q&A forum. And of course, this is a place for you to ask any questions that you have for Dynatrace app development or any Dynatrace related questions, and I can help you figure it out if this is the right place, or I can forward you maybe to the better place to ask. So the first thing that we're going to take a look are going to be the news and new releases in Dynatrace. This is mostly related to app development, blog post, newsletter, and new videos. And the first thing is that the Dynatrace Partner App Competition 2025 has been closed, so submissions are done. The last day of submissions was 29th of August. Some of you have asked about the next steps, and the next step is actually just to wait. The winners will be announced in October, so next month you can expect to get contacted in case you're or I guess it will be announced on our blog post. The apps are going to undergo now a judgment process based on the giving criteria that you can see here. So the business need, some design, there's these sets of things that we take a look at. And then we're going to evaluate the apps that were submitted. And then next month, we're going to announce the winners. So good luck to each one of you that have submitted your app, and fingers crossed that you get the first place. Some other thing that is new is the lookup data in Grail. So what is lookup data? Lookup data in Grail, as you might have read in our newsletter this month, enables you to enrich observability data, so logs, events, traces, and metrics with additional context using these lookup tables. So the key benefits to this is that you can add custom static data for context. As you can see on the picture, you have the data for enrichment here, in addition to all of the existing metrics. So you can now add the context, and we're going to see there an example. So you can add a custom static data for context. You can integrate this context with DQL, and you can store this data securely in Grail. At the end of this office hour, Kerry will share all of the links, so you can take a look at this. But digging deeper into it, to upload lookup data, you can use the API, as you can see here, and then using you can submit the data as form data or multipart, as a CSV, so text-based data, and you can add parameters such as parse pattern, lookup field, file path, and there is additional optional fields such as display name, description, and overwrite. Now, when you re-upload the same file that already exists, it's going to overwrite the content. So you need to use the overwrite parameter if the file path already exists. And then you can use the load command in DQL. As you can see on the right side, we fetch some spans. And then we use the lookup command to load lookup/HTTP status codes. And then we have the source field and the lookup field for the code. So it's a pretty cool way. You will see how we implement this in a custom app. This is, of course, available. We, of course, have a new guide. We released it last month. So you can imagine a scenario where you want to store a user event information in Grail. And this data can include data such as user email, current balance, and the currency of the balance. And then what you want to do with this data is maybe convert it into different currency using conversion rate. and this conversion rate you can fetch from third-party API. So what you want to do is, by storing this event data and conversion rates in Grail, you can perform this conversion and generate balances directly within Grail. And we can show you the way. So we have the following example where you upload the data and then fetch the data in Dynatrace app. As you can see, we first upload it, and then it's available using the load command in the top right. So we see the records where we have the USD to euro conversion rate. And then below we have a data table where we see the balance in USD, and then we can convert it to euros, so you see the difference. Of course, there is many other use cases that you can come up with this. So it's not limited, but it basically allows you to store any static data that can be helpful. And of course, it's static for the time being. Of course, you can just upload or refetch it, and then a new API data, for example, can be implemented there. So it's a pretty cool way to get some static data there. Now, one thing to be aware is that not everybody is going to have permission to do so. So in our guide, at the end, you can actually see the part of talking about permissions specifically. So be aware of that. You might not be able to actually upload something, and also you cannot create new file paths in the lookup folder. So be aware of that. Make sure that you have correct permissions if you're trying to do this. And of course, let us know if there is anything confusing or if you have any issues through the community is the easiest way. Now, the next thing is Dynatrace Developer Newsletter, which we release every month. This one released in late August. So we introduced a couple of exciting updates, such as the new lookup data in Grail, which allows you, of course, to enrich the observability data. And then the Strato 2.0 is live. There has been some significant enhancements. And also the Dynatrace App Toolkit received some updates, which should make the app development more seamless. That would be it from the updates and news, and we will go to the Q&A session. Now, in this Q&A session, I've picked a couple of questions from the community, and we will take a deep dive into the answers and some of tips that we have from me and the team. And of course, if you have more questions regarding it, feel free to ask here in the chat. Now, the first one that that we're going to show here is filtering an application that is using data from UseDQL. So John A. Creek has asked or told us that he's developing an app for a user, and then he's using the UseDQL to fetch some DQL data and then put it into data table v2. Now, he's trying to create filters on data table v2 using the filtering controls, specifically filter bar. And none of the examples in our docs use the DQL as a source, and he cannot get the filtering to work. So he is asking if we have an example app that can do it. Now, we actually have in our docs rendered filter data in a table. And what we basically show there is that you can fetch data in DQL and then filter it. Basically, this works by taking any kind of data and then filtering based on all of the things that are available there. So you can try it out. And David answered actually with a custom code, basically where you can see his code is actually working with UseDQL, so you can actually try it out and see if it works for you. But basically, using this, what it allows you to do is fetch anything from DQL and then have a filter that works basically throughout the whole query. And as you can see here, this is David's code. In action, you can see that he specifically targeted the log level. But if you don't target specific column, then you can fetch, then you can filter for all of these fields. And in this case, we just filtered for the log level where the warn is present, and then you can see all of the logs available. So this is the way that John can get his data available for the user using this simple filter. Now, just a moment, I want to read this question before we go further. Now, Kerry, maybe you can put a question, at least the part that we can see. There is a question from Patrick Potenchuk. Hello, Patrick from Slovakia. Hello back from Austria. Now, there seems to be the limitation of Dynatrace app with external requests, but I think the best thing would be, considering it's a little bit big, would be to ask this question, put it in the community, and I can write you an actual response, which is going to be better answer than this. Although the fetching of the resources which are outside should be possible. With the app function specifically, you don't need to specify any like external requests, basically. So what you can do is just you can use the app function to fetch stuff from the outside. You might need to add the domain to allow external requests, because most of the requests from Dynatrace are blocked. So that should be basically it to solve it. But I think it's the best if you just put it in a community, and then I can take a look later and I'll answer it in detail there. Maybe you can also give a little bit more context to specifically if you were trying anything and if you had an issue, if you ran into any issues specifically about not being able to fetch, or some kind of network issues. I hope that helps you a little bit, but I think that should be pretty well. Yeah, so external domains are definitely possible. Maybe after I show the other questions, maybe we can go and check out some of the content that we have about the fetching external requests. But that should be definitely possible. I hope that helps you, Patrick. All right, great. Thank you. Now, we've seen how to filter some data in a table after you fetch it from the QL. The next one that we saw is some issues when you're deploying the first app in 5 minutes. This might happen if you're quite a new user, or your first time user of the custom apps, and you're trying to deploy your new app. We had here DJ NYC have a problem with deploying the app. Now, the issue that this user had specifically was regarding the network issues. So the template couldn't be fetched. And this is a really nice approach when you have such kind of an issue, is because you give us all of the details that are needed, and then we can help further. Now, I gave a little bit of more context and asked for more details. In the end, we could see that he had some kind of firewall configuration which was limiting basically the access to the template. And then there was a workaround where you have to specifically download the template manually and then specify this unzip template in this case. But what's really good is that I want to share some of the questions or the reasons that this might happen, but also to share that we have a troubleshooting page which you can access and basically see most of the common pitfalls, or kind of the problems that our users run into, and the ways that you can solve them. So you have a couple of different sections, such as debug apps or develop apps in Safari, or the VS Code extension issues, and there is a troubleshooting guides for those. There is also the network one, so you can take a look at that. And in case you have issues, of course, you can always go back and ask us. We try to answer fairly quickly to all of the questions that are asked in the community, and try to get your proper answers so you can continue happy coding. Another question from Andy here, which was asked a couple of months ago, was basically one of the motivations for him using a custom app was to basically make the filters or the filter parameters and also time frame parameters be persistent when the user uses an intent or maybe moves to another page and then goes back, and he wanted those settings to be reapplied. So you go into your custom app, and if you see this in other Dynatrace apps, for example, if you go to a dashboard app, you apply some filters, and then you use an intent to go into another app. Once you go back to your dashboard, you will still have those filters applied. So Andy was here trying to figure it out how it works, and he was right. React Router is one of the things that can be used in this case. You can also use Dynatrace native app state, more specifically user app state, and there is a couple of different approaches here. So there is the use params from the React router, and that will only last within the user's browser. So if you want this just for the session that the user is having, that's a great approach. However, if you switch a browser, for example, or you switch a PC where you're checking it out, this will not persist. So if you want to be on a Dynatrace user level, so it applies to a user no matter what PC they're coming from. So as long as it's the same account, you can use Dynatrace user app state. I mean, if you want the setting to be applied to all of the users, no matter where they come from, then you can use the app state. And as you can see here, we have the Dynatrace state, which shows all the details about storing app and user states. Of course, you can also store user-generated data and static data, as you can see what we've added recently. But basically with this, you basically take the query parameters that you had, a filter or the time frame, you need to save it inside a user state or to the React, into the React hook, which you can see here. And the router, basically you have the route path or the data route or the route, and then you basically access the parameters in the component using the use params, and then you have the access. You need to just save it and then access it afterwards once the user comes back to the page. So I think Andy had some issues with basically intents conflicting with that. So we're trying to help him with that. But basically, if you want to make it persistent, although I believe this is something that might be coming on the whole platform level, so you don't have to handle it manually. This definitely works as a current answer to the problem that Andy was having. And I think that would be it. From these questions, if you don't have any more questions, you're always invited to follow the developer blog, where we post the latest, the newsletter and the partner app competition, where you can read, about the latest updates to the software regarding app development. Of course, you have the other resources, our developer Q&A forum, the developer docs, and the next office hours, which is going to be October 14th at the same time as today. I don't see any questions, so I guess that would be it. Thank you all for joining today. I hope you all had a good time today with me, and see you next month. Bye-bye.